All right, let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons. It was about roughly a week ago that the Atlanta Falcons shocked the NFL world supposedly when they selected quarterback Michael Penix Jr. in the first round. And everybody in the media took that opportunity to slam the Atlanta Falcons as many times as they physically possibly could over the course of the following hours and days, talking about what a stupid move it was to draft Michael Penix Jr. But there's an interesting phenomenon that happened. If you actually back up a few days and weeks before the NFL draft, there were all kind of reports from people, these same people in the media, talking about how great of a move it would be for anybody to acquire Michael Penix Jr. and that he, Penix Jr., is a lot better than people are giving him credit for. Let's jump into a few tweets highlighting exactly what the media was saying up to the NFL draft. This is before the NFL draft. That's up this first tweet. This is according to Albert Breer. You'll notice the date there, April 6th, before the draft. One interesting thing I've picked up on making calls this week, coaches seem to be higher than scouts on Washington quarterback Michael Penix. In general, some have him ahead of the presumed top guys, excluding Caleb Williams. All right, so we have a lot, the media figure, Albert Breer, saying a bunch of coaches have come out and said Michael Penix is the number 2 quarterback in the draft. Let's go up to another tweet. This is from Sam Monson over at PFF. This is what he had to say. Again, April before the NFL draft, April 9th. Best PFF grade when moving beyond their first read, Caleb Williams, 90.6. Second, Michael Penix Jr. What happens if Penix ends up where people thought he would in January? Picks 10 through 15, right? This was people thinking Penix was going to fall into the first round. Sam Monson's making the argument that he actually should be a first round top 10 kind of pick. And then finally, we have Bruce Feldman. He wrote a tweet and then a piece on The Athletic saying, Michael Penix Jr. may be a polarizing topic among draft observers, but one group that are big believers in him, the rival coaches who've actually faced him. Quote, his arm talent is as good as I've ever seen. All right, so I think it's pretty clear that up to the NFL draft, you had reporters, analytics people at PFF, and beat writers talking about the fact that Michael Penix Jr. and the reports that they were saying and doing from rival coaches to coaches in the National Football League, everyone was saying to the data itself, saying Michael Penix Jr. may be the second best quarterback in the draft. If that was the case, the Atlanta Falcons picking him up at number 8 would be a huge steal. The media, the moment the Falcons made that pick, surprisingly shifted their tune. I think it's kind of silly. I think in the long run here, the Atlanta Falcons may have actually made one of the smartest moves of the NFL draft. I'm curious what your thoughts are, Mize, now that I'm done with my rant. But first, Atlanta Falcons fans, I want you guys, now that you have all the facts, now that you have the information, and now that you've had a week to digest it, grade in your mind, A to F, the selection of Michael Penix Jr. in the first round. Really curious what you guys have to say, so let us know in the comment section. But Mize, give me your thoughts now that we've had a week to digest everything with the Falcons and Penix Jr.
Yeah, Nick, I think it was a very good pick. I think it was really interesting. There's a lot of interesting points to bring up about it. One, people don't bring up, and I think this is key here. No one ever questions his talent. This is a guy who's always talented. We know he's mobile. We know he has arm strength. We know that he can make all the throws. We know that he's very athletic quarterback. The things that people bring up are health and current roster status of other players on the roster. Those are the things that people really bring up and kind of, I think, slam the Falcons in general on. And I really think no one's slamming Penix per se as much other than the injury concerns. They're more so slamming the Falcons, but I think it's a smarter move than people let on to, like you said. Because first, if you look at the quarterback situation, the elephant in the room is the Falcons have Kirk Cousins on a 4-year deal. And I think that this is blown out of proportion because it is a 4-year deal, but it's also not a 4-year deal. In starting 2026, his third year, so the first 2 years, he is fully guaranteed 2 of his salaries. Then go into the third year of this salary for the Falcons. No guaranteed money. Same with the fourth year as well. If they were to cut Cousins in 2026 when he turns 38, they would save $32 million and then as well as $45 million in 2027 as well. I think this is something that people don't realize is yes, Cousins is on a 4-year deal, but really they could cut him after 2 and be just fine. It's not going to be a major cap hit. They'll actually save some money after the fact as well. So I think the timeline for Penix could look like something. Penix sits for the whole first year, gets healthier, learns under a guy like Kirk Cousins, gets a lot of knowledge, gets into the Falcons system, That second year, I see him coming. It's almost like the, you know, Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, a little bit expedited timeline though. That second year, he learns maybe coming into the end of that year, depending on how the season's going, Penix Jr. starts to get a couple starts, then takes over fully at that third year mark. I think that would be a really smart timeline for the Falcons if everything goes well with Penix Jr. So I think there is a path. It isn't too detrimental to the Falcons. And the final point that we've been talking about for a long time is the Falcons are never going to be good enough to pick, or bad enough, excuse me, I guess would be the right way to say it, to pick where they were picking. This is a draft that was flush with quarterback talent. Everyone's talking about how many good quarterbacks there were in this draft. There's so much hype. We saw the huge run on players. The Falcons had an opportunity of a lifetime. Obviously, they liked Michael Penix. He fell to them in a spot where they felt really comfortable grabbing him. They get him. It shocks a lot of people, but that's maybe the best thing. If you don't show your hand too early, people are going to get shocked because they're like, wow, I didn't expect the Falcons to be looking for a quarterback, but that's because they're looking so far towards the future. So I think this was a good move by the Falcons. If you look at everything and you're not being unbiased and listening too much of the media talking heads, getting paid to throw out negative opinions, clickbait, rage bait type stuff. I think the Falcons are going to be just fine. I think this could be a really smart pick, like you said.
Well, and just one final note I really want to just really hammer on here is that the Philadelphia Eagles with general manager Howie Roseman, they were lauded as the smartest team in football when they drafted Jalen Hurts, when they had Carson Wentz on their roster, and they were going to sign him to a massive mega extension, right? The Kansas City Chiefs have been lauded as geniuses drafting Patrick Mahomes when they had Alex Smith on the roster, a player who they had recently assigned to a long-term deal as well. The Packers have done it twice. They drafted Aaron Rodgers when they had Brett Favre still playing and paying Brett Favre a lot of money. They drafted Jordan Love when they had Aaron Rodgers and they were paying Aaron Rodgers a lot of money. The Packers are lauded as one of the smartest teams in football. The Baltimore Ravens, another team many people consider to be one of the great organizational teams, they traded up in the first round to draft Lamar Jackson when they already had a Super Bowl MVP at that point, the best quarterback in Baltimore Ravens franchise history in Joe Flacco, who they had also paid a lot of money to. Those teams, by being aggressive and getting a first-round quarterback, despite having a high-priced veteran already on the roster, they're all really smart. The Atlanta Falcons do that, and suddenly the media thinks it's the stupidest move of all time. It doesn't make any sense to me. The strategy, the mindset from the Atlanta Falcons is undeniably, irrefutably correct. You need to get your franchise elite quarterback, and now I agree with you, is the best time they're going to have to do that because Kirk Cousins as their starter, they're going to win 9, 10, 11 games next season if and likely if Cousins is healthy. This was their best chance to try and get their franchise quarterback, Penix Jr., based on the data and some of the reporting. A lot of people had him as the number 2 guy in the draft. The Falcons made the smart move here. I think they made a right move here. And Atlanta fans, ignore the media, focus on the strategy here, and it's a good move by Atlanta. I think the future is really bright. A lot of people are really not liking what the Falcons have done. I say I completely disagree with all that. I think Terry Fontenot and company deserve a lot of credit for making this kind of move.